here we are. Welcome, welcome. Uh, we're going to talk about how to become a leader in the Trump resistance, crossing the threshold, hosting a get-together, what it takes to turn intention into action. In this episode, we're going to explore how to put into motion, I'm stumbling over my words, I apologize, into motion simple, human scale gatherings that we can eventually spark powerful waves of resistance. Let's see, our first speaker will walk through the art of hosting a get-together, how to invite people into your home or local space, foster connection, and build a community rooted in shared purpose. Then, on our Mobilize 101 segment, you'll learn how to use the Mobilize platform to publicly list your event, track RSVPs, and invite others in your area to step across that threshold too. Our mission and goals. Our vision is a future with Trump and his enablers in power. Our mission as lawful, nonviolent civil resistance to Trump and his enablers. Our values are collaboration, integrity, nonpartisanship, and professionalism. Now I am going to, where's my bar? Drop into the chat. Oh man. There we go. Oh man, just a sec.
Do you want me to drop them in the chat, the links?
I would appreciate it because
Happy to.
I have messed this up.
They're in there.
Awesome. Now to get back to where I was. Okay. I am Tracy Adams. I am a moderator and a campaign volunteer with Resist Trump, among several other organizations. And I've really enjoyed being here with you guys. And it's been very interesting, and I'm looking forward to learning more tonight. With me, I have the wonderful Nevin Kamath. Want to say hi, Nevin?
Hi, I'm Nevin Kamath, and I'm the director and one of the founders of Resist Trump campaign. Happy to be here. I'm honored that all of you are taking a little bit of time in your evening on Thursday evening to spend time with us to learn about how to be a leader in the Trump resistance. I hope that we'll live up to your expectations, and I hope you have some fun tonight.
Thank you. The First Amendment. We are utilizing a 2 to 3 of the 5 freedoms in this meeting. The lawful, nonviolent civil resistance is protected by the First Amendment, as described in the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education. There's that link. So the First Amendment is extremely important and a lot about why we're here. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the governance for redress of grievances. So, moving right along. Have you got that link, Nick or Nev?
Yeah, I think I put the link in the chat for the First Amendment, Tracy.
Okay.
I think now, if you want to stop sharing, I can begin sharing my screen.
Excellent.
Thank you. right, welcome to my screen, which is just a continuation of the same slideshow. Um, we are in this series, How to Become a Leader in the Trump Resistance. And we have come some ways in doing so. We have our, sorry, one second, just going to move things around on my screen. We have our first assignment coming up, which is hosting a get together. I think we have the deadline, or the kind of soft deadline of July 20th, which is the date by which you should try and hold your get together. We have Mobilize infrastructure that we're sharing with the folks on this call that will allow you to use our Mobilize to host your event and post it. This is all part of a leadership development series, and you want to keep in mind a few things that I just posted in the chat, which are that if you do choose to host an event to complete your first assignment in this course, first major assignment, you should try and remember to host your event in person, because there's really nothing like meeting people in person and building trust by shaking hands and looking people in the eye. And kudos to you for having the courage to build community around you around such a bold topic as resisting Trump. Also consider making your location visible to prospective attendees on the Mobilize website, because generally speaking, people, in my experience, prefer to choose to RSVP when they know where the location is. So they'll likely register if the location is publicly visible. And then finally, we have a toolkit for hosting a get-together that I also dropped in the chat. It's a Google Doc that's like A to Z steps 1 through 50 on how to host a get-together. Everything you could possibly want to know about hosting a get-together, especially if this is your first time, or even if it's your 10th time, you'll get something from that article. As we look forward in the series, we have other elements that we want to just share. The second module goes into more depth around knowing your rights, using social media, staying safe, and then finally taking action. That module, level 2, will end in a major assignment to lead a lawful protest. So that's what you kind of think of after you finish this first get together. Think about what that could look like and what that could feel like, especially as potentially a topic of your first meeting. And you can hold multiple meetings as you go through this program, especially on our Mobilize. And then finally, module 3 involves advanced media techniques. We're going to talk about fundraising, advanced organizing, and then we're going to hear from some experts on team building to help you start a resist pod. And the final assignment will be to form a resist pod, which is a group of 3 to 5 people who are looking to commit to doing direct action of lawful nonviolent civil resistance on a regular, frequent basis. We need all of you to join this movement and to get involved in lawful nonviolent civil resistance, given the authoritarian situation that we have found ourselves in. So this week, as you have heard, we are going to be talking about hosting a get-together. We learned about digital hubs and using Discord to cultivate a community last week. And next time we meet, which will be 2 weeks from today, we'll hear from an attorney who's going to be talking about knowing your rights, the legal basics for activists and organizers. And we do have topics now. I believe the first topic is going to be your right to protest, and the second topic will be about your rights in the event something goes wrong, your rights in the face of the law. So we want to prepare you. We don't expect anything to go wrong, but something can happen in some, unusual situations, and just mentally preparing for situations like that could be helpful. But it is most likely that the first topic will be far more relevant, which is just how to exercise your First Amendment rights. So today we have an agenda to hear from Ben Sadun, after which we will do a Q&A with him, do a breakout group, and then Mentimeter. Then we'll hear from Lucy Frost. She'll take your questions. We'll do a breakout group, and then we'll do another Mentimeter, and then we'll do a closing. This is the general agenda we've been following from the beginning, and that's what we'll be pursuing for today's webinar. So let me just check to see if our folks are around. Next, I'm going to introduce Ben, who's just arrived on stage. Good to see you, Ben.
Hello, everyone.
Bubble Ben Sadun has worked on Texas campaigns since 2018 with a focus on distributed organizing and data. He helped co-found a new Texas data cooperative called Texas Spark that is working on tools to assist activists, precinct chairs, and legislative staff to keep track of state legislature bills and demographics of local precincts. Additionally, he is working with Ground Game Texas and other activists to test out distributed house parties that try to blend fun and politics in an attempt to engage more people in the political process. With a graduate degree in communication studies, decades worth of bubble blowing experience, I'll let him explain that, and multiple election cycles of political experience, Ben believes fun and community can be a gateway drug to political engagement. It is my pleasure to host Ben today. Ben, the floor is yours, sir.
Hey, yeah, so I'm Bubble Ben Sadun. I've been working on these campaigns since 2018, and I guess I'll talk a little bit about the house party project that I'm doing. It starts off as purely social for my first meeting. It's about inviting your neighbors, and then once you figure out a little bit more of their political leanings, it's about adding more political content as we go further and further to sort of build out more of these people who are less politically active as part of the problem. Uh, I really see these house parties as a way to re-energize people, to get them fighting fascism, and also ideas with their neighbors in order to uh, really start the resistance. That even if you are on a very liberal part of the country or things like that, your house party can become an incubator for ideas and things like that for other organizations in other parts of the country that might not be as liberal. You might come up with interesting, cool party ideas, and that's sort of what I'm trying to focusing on is creating a toolkit where there's multiple activities, things like that. Um, Now, you did notice I was called Bubble Ben. I am not crazy, although I do feel like I'm going crazy from the Trump administration. But really, I used to I used to blow a bunch of bubbles back in the day, and there's lots of fun activities that you can do for your own house parties if you prefer, that involve bubbles. You can create your own bubble mixture. There's art projects that involve bubbles. It's a great way to include kids or have other people channel their inner kid. Uh, that sort of thing. So it's a nice tool in your toolkit, and I felt like it sort of rose to the moment. But that's a little bit about me. I kind of want to hear about where everyone else is at. I mean, everyone has taken the time today to put this on their calendar to come and show up and listen to me speak, and that takes something. There's a reason you did that, and I'm very curious to hear what those reasons were. So if you could put in that chat, that'd be great about those reasons.
I've just opened the chat for everyone to enter their comments.
Thanks. Yeah. And I asked this not because like I mean it's very general for people to want to be, you know, as an organizer try to get people included, things like that. Uh, but also it's this part is going to be pretty important in reflecting on why you're going to be having your own party and how you're going to get other people to join you on your party. Let's see if I can. I'm seeing a pissed off senior frustrated with what's happening. So there's sort of this feeling that these these parties or learning how to do this can lead to dealing with that frustration, learning how to build community. So there's an implicit value of community being good, of finding this sort of thing. That's important. Friend invited me. Yeah. You want to find other like-minded, pissed off people, finding spaces where other people are like you. Morality decay, feeling like we're trying to fight back this morality decay to make sure that people are more involved. Yeah, these are all great. Yeah, like these physical coming together with these groups of people is pretty powerful. And I mean, as you can see, they're not all the same reasons. A lot of them right now are pissed off, and some of them can be about kind of feed into each other based off of like what the other person's thinking. But some of them are similar. The similarities really kind of what they do is they'll show you that what it takes to have a successful house party. If this is the reason why someone came into here today, if they're not getting those needs met from say this seminar or these other things, then they're not going to be coming back to the next one. So each time you go to a party, you're coming for different reasons, and each person is coming for different reasons. What I want to talk about for that is allowing you to think about who you want to show up to your party, what those reasons are that they're going to be there, and what makes it worth their time. So thank you for going to that next question. So talking about the first one, the question is important because you're going to want to throw different parties for different audiences. Getting the boys at the basketball hoop to join you for a knitting club might be a harder ask. Now, then again, maybe your basketball friends have more diverse interests than mine might, but like you want to match the activities to your desired audience. So you can do that by asking, if you're getting these people through the Discord group, asking about them, like, hey, what do you guys like to do? What's fun? What do you enjoy? Getting more information about your attendees can help you figure out what are your shared interests that would be fun to do. If you are a whole bunch of older ladies that like knitting, then maybe a knitting club for your party is a good idea. But understanding who you're recruiting is going to affect that. And it's going to be based off of who you want to show up to those parties. So some people you might not want to show up. You might not want MAGA people to show up to your parties. You might want other people to actually show up to your parties. You might have a stretch goal of people who are not active to the political system to show up to your parties, or those might not be your stretch goal. That might be your primary audience. A lot of the logistics of your party will come from these 4 questions. So the second question is, why do you want these people to show up to your parties? If it's just to meet your neighbor, great. You might not need to do any particular programming. You can just be like, hey, come stop by. We just want to meet you. My Memorial Day party had a 20% response rate whenever usually you get like 10% response rate just from little tiny flyers that said, hey, I'm your neighbor. Hey, I'm your neighbor. There's going to be bubbles, a pool, food and snacks. Come meet like Rena and Ben. And here's my number. And we put them all to strangers that were just around our neighborhood, and the proximity worked. And that was because we targeted people. What we wanted the people to show up to these parties were new neighbors that I did not know before. If you know these people, that's going to be a different type of recruitment strategy than if you don't know these people in the first place. Another important question is going to be when and where your parties occur. It doesn't have this can be the first question you ask, but it can also be a later question you ask. Because sometimes the place that you're going to do this is already written out. Like you're saying, I'm going to go at my house, and then all of the other things that are going to happen are going to funnel through that, right? If you're saying, oh, I want to have a bubble party, but you like live at an apartment that doesn't have a very good space for it, and that's where you plan to have it, then obviously you're going to have to change some things up. So the when and where sort of influences all of these other things of how do you make your parties worth your participants' times, who you're going to recruit if it's really far away, right? Like if you're doing, it's going to be a hard act for me to get the person from Montana on this call to come to my house party in Austin, right? So making sure that the location is acceptable is important as well. But all these questions should be asked, and they sort of interact with each other. And what will make your party worth your participants' time? Usually I break that down as to fun and in fulfillment, which you can see a lot from the previous answers that people were doing for why they were here in this one. This sense of being pissed off and having this community of other things, of other people who feel that way. That's an example of this, of what those people in particular, of those participants, would probably make it worth them showing up. So you want to make sure that you are filling these people with people that give them at least some ability to either be pissed or allow them to like act in a cathartic way on that, without driving other people away per se for what your audience is. And you can really conceptualize those priorities of like, oh, there's a conflict between one member or another, based on how you've previously answered these and your values, the values that you have as a shared group. So if we could go to the next one, um, the next page, we're going to talk about the group values that you're going to want to discuss. Uh, Now, I encourage you both with whoever you choose to organize your party with, and in fact, I do encourage you to go it in with someone. Uh, there's a couple of reasons. The first is the social pressure. Nev did a really great thing. He like sort of pushed me a little bit on when was my slides going to be put up on this presentation. That was a good thing because it sort of helps motivate me to be like, oh shoot, I should be finishing this slides. We have a sort of a thing of being more accountable to other people in a lot of ways, and so going in with someone can help with that accountability. It can also help you with shifting responsibilities. So sometimes it's going to get pretty daunting that if you have a house party, you're going every month to be hosting it, but it's a lot less hard to host if you have someone else that's going in with you. So trying to find someone else that buys into you with just one or two people is going to be important. And then asking those 4 questions, setting up a meeting time, and figuring out those 4 questions is going to be important. And now what you can use to sort of guide you for those questions are the values that you have, right? What you want those parties to be. I'm in the rest of this presentation, I'm going to really kind of present the two more values that you might have for this thing. But I want to stress that these values are a balancing act. That whenever you're saying like, oh, you value community, you value like creating political change, sometimes those two things are going to be in conflict in each other, and you're going to have to resolve that. I'll give you an example. So say that you have you want to create a safe space, a safe community. You value community, and you want to create a community for trans folks, like a safe space for trans folks, because trans people in our day-to-day life, just in public, they're getting the shorter end of the stick in a lot of ways, and it'd be nice to have a place for them, right? Now, that community value of who shows up, of just making sure you have enough trans people at your party and making sure that they can feel safe, can conflict with another a value of political action. Say that your political action goal was to convince people who are against trans folks to perhaps soften their stance, to maybe realize that they're not the devil, to realize that they're people, things like that. Now, there's certain types of ways that you can structure your conversation that can prioritize one part of that versus the other. Sometimes if you bring a bunch of MAGA people, you might be able to start certain conversations with them that might eventually lead to them changing their stance on trans folk, but it might counteract that first goal of community that you had, that having them in the same space and the way that perhaps that they're talking about, if they're not talking about polite and they feel more threatening, that could make people in the trans community who are coming to your parties feel more unsafe. So understanding what your value is and what the scope of your operation is going to be important, because if you try to do too much or you try to do two things, you're going to have more of those values coming into conflict in each other, and you'll have to figure out how to evaluate them. Now, sometimes you'll be able to reconcile both. Maybe there is going to be a really cool party where you're able to find like someone who, you get both a trans member of the community and a MAGA person to come and have a face-to-face conversation, and it can be great. But other times it might not be the case. So figuring out how to balance those values are going to be important. But let's talk a little bit more about what those values look like and why they might be important. So let's talk first about building community. Once again to the chat, why do you think building community might be listed as a goal of this group? Why do we care about building community?
I'm going to just jump in and offer, while the chat gets a response prepared to your question, that I believe community is important to build courage. And especially at a time like this, courage is contagious, and community allows you to maintain a sense of optimism and hope.
Yeah, I would completely agree that I find myself more courageous and feeling like I'm able to, like, a little bit less conspiratorial, to be honest, of feeling like I can push forward with my thoughts and my ideas whenever I'm in a group setting, with other people who are willing to fight with me. That's for sure. So provide safety. Yes, there's safety in numbers. If you're going to a protest, those sort of things. Having community backing, change can happen. More people, yeah, more people you can pressure on the opposition. So what we find here is by community backing, having a stronger community feeds into also the value of political action. That's important to note that you might even improving your community can improve your goal of political action. Yeah, community can fulfill some of the roles that we've historically ride the government. Social safety nets, right? Well, mutual aid. Some of these things that are falling for. Whenever we chip in $4 or $5, we can sort of do the thing that taxes are supposed to do, of sharing the burden, right? These are all really good examples. Um, and what you want to be doing is, if those are the reasons why community are really good, how can we foster that intangible acts for your parties? And you can do that through discussions, but also you can do that just by showing up and just having the reoccurring showing up. So other things, if you could click again, some other things that I found is, like, people find a sense of belonging, friendship. You can find different solutions, a diversity of perspectives. You can come up with interesting protest ideas together, because more than one head is better than one. It's a it's a good value to have, and one that you will get through some of this osmosis, but it's going to depend on who do you want to be a part of that community, and who do you feel is going to give you those things that are stronger in that community. You can have toxic members in the community that don't get you towards all of those things that we value for community. And if we don't break it down, we might not notice when that's happening, or we might let that go. But if you can link stuff back to, oh, we've created this shared value of belonging and friendship, and whenever you say X or whatever, where it causes tension, those sort of things. So noticing that we're running out of times, what we'll see is we have that, and then I mean, as I mentioned with political, to realize this, you can just to realize this, you can have political icebreakers, games. A lot of just having people show up is going to be important. You're going to want to have people showing up constantly and recurring. So what you're going to want to do is make sure you're getting contact information for people. That is an important practical tip. You're going to want contact information for people, making sure that they're fun activities. But if you want to make them political, uh, we kind of talked as resist Trump. We've already know why we feel like collective change is valuable. It's because it allows us to do more things as society, as a group. We vote together. We vote together. We do things like that. If you wanted to make it more political, you're going to probably just start off with your existing community first. Now, you might just it sounds like you have already done this with the branding, right? If you are branding stuff as resist Trump, you're going to have people who self-filter. Um, so using stuff in your advertising, saying things like that, it might limit down who comes initially into your community, but you're going to get more people who are initially bought in. So you are more likely to get those things to start the conversation halfway there, of instead figuring out what is our political values, you can figure out which political actions you want to do. I recommend the Jayapal Resistant Labs. That could be even just one of your activities if you wanted for some of these things, that they show you how to help plan a protest, and where you should start focusing on different aspects, things like that. But the one final thing I want to talk about before I go is the agenda. Is the agenda. So if you could skip to the thing about the agenda, you can check the. So the agenda, whenever we talk about how these values are pretty messy, and sometimes you might be figuring out doing multiple things, don't chew off more than you can chew. Like, don't bite off more than you can chew. Um, but if you do, that's where the agenda really comes into play. I had an old professor that says that, like, time is your fuel on your destination on reaching your goal. So if you have a goal that is split between community building and politics, you might have an agenda that says 30 minutes of, like, a bubble party, dance party, a karaoke, things like that. And then, let's have 30 minutes of doing something political, of phone banking, of planning our protest, of doing something like that. these agendas will allow you to also move the conversation along in a non-threatening way, because you can then appeal to the agenda and say, hey, look, what you're saying is really valuable, but as we kind of discussed before, and what we agreed upon before, is that we're going to devote 30 minutes towards this, so we got to move on. So that's how you can sort of push all of these together. I would assume that we have a question about the slide. Yeah, you'll probably be able to get it. I did rush through some of it and skipped over a little bit, but more of it was just going into deeper about politics, and I wanted to make sure that people had time for questions, that I didn't take up too much of people's time. That's about it.
Okay, thank you so much, Ben. That was very enlightening and very helpful. I want to invite everyone to use the Q&A feature to submit any questions you might have. Ben, again, is an experienced community organizer, and as you heard today, has a really interesting and strong perspective about how to throw parties, which are one form of get-together that can work really well for your first Resist Trump get-together, or maybe your 10th Resist Trump get-together. I personally used to hold, I wouldn't exactly call them parties. I would call them meetings at the library to get my group started, but it would have been fun to host a party to get things started. And I probably would have gotten a lot more people to show up at the very beginning. We've got some questions coming in, and I'm going to pose them to Ben. Ben, would meeting at a bar, brewery, or restaurant be a good place to meet?
What I always stress is your audience. So it depends on who you're recruiting with. So me, for instance, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of bars and stuff because they can get kind of loud. But that's a personal preference, right? So it depends on how big or small your group is. If you're going to invite a lot of people and you want to filter out the people who are a little bit more introverted, who, you know, you can do that and do it at a bar, and it makes it more fun. There are some really great things that happen at a bar, but for other audiences, you might not want to choose to do that. But I think it's a viable option. It just depends on your audience.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. And we've got another question that is coming in. This is more of a question about links. If you've got any links to your bubble recipes that you can maybe share with me that I could share with participants afterwards, or if you got a link to the Resistance Labs webinar that I think you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I'll set up an email to Nov after this that will have some of the stuff. Recipes for bubbles is actually very, very easy, and that's why I think it's so cool. Is that really it is just like soap and glycerin, like dish soap and glycerin, if glycerin to help make the bubbles more full. But yeah, making your own bubble solution is really easy, but also bubbles are just pretty cheap if you want pre-bought.
Nice. One of our participants has raised their hand, Susie McNeil. I'm going to click the button that allows Susie to talk, and Susie should be able to engage with you verbally. Let's see how this works.
Sure.
Susie, I think you need to unmute yourself if you want to speak.
Yep, just got it unmuted. They're having a local DNC meeting here in Pflugerville, and I've never been to it. I've been to the Austin, DNC meetings, but would that be a good place to go and meet people and introduce this idea and so to speak?
Yeah. Yes. So what you have there is you have a group of people who are already per se bought into an idea. And I think,
Absolutely.
and so that's exactly the place that if it depends on it depends on your project, right? Like for my project, I was saying that I want to start focusing on people who are not engaged, right? So my bubble parties, like I start with just my neighbors who some of them might vote, some of them might not. Uh, you know, for me, if that was my goal for my party, I'm probably not going to go to the DNC thing to recruit people, because who I'm going to be recruiting are the people who I already know are bought in. But say that you are trying to get people who are trying to you're organizing a protest, or you're organizing something where the value there is already bought in. You don't want to work on educating them on why they should have that value. Then yes, that's exactly where you want to be recruiting. Same thing with like those Austin protests. I think the big No Kings Day protests, a lot of the fact people just talk about, oh, how many people were there. But what you realize is that you have a whole bunch of people who are there for a specific reason, and you can use that's a captive audience for a very specific project that probably aligns with what you're doing. So I think that's an excellent idea.
Okay, all right, good, thanks.
Thanks, Susie. One last question for you, Ben. This comes in from Sherry Clark. My goal is to work with the Democratic Group for actions within the community, but I sent this out as nonpartisan. Do you think a straightforward approach is better, or just working with them and letting people decide is the best way? Or do you think people will be turned away? Sherry, I'm actually wondering if you could maybe clarify your question on voice. I'm going to hit the allow to talk if you're available. And then you should be able to unmute yourself if you would like to clarify.
Yeah, I know that went out really badly worded. Basically, I'm having a meeting. It starts on the 16th weekly. I already got involved with the Democratic group. I went to the Mobilize thing. They're very active in Mobilize, but I want to do this aside and then kind of work in tandem with them, helping them out and maybe having some of their people help us out type thing. But like I said, I set mine up when I send it out nonpartisan. I don't care what who you back, whatever, as long as we have the same theme. So when I'm introducing that idea to people to work with the Mobilize, and then they know that the Democratic group that's hosting it, do I just say, hey, this is the thing that we can support and leave out the fact that they're the Democratic group, or do I introduce that to be more transparent?
You want to take this, Ben, or should I?
Why don't you start with it? Because I might be a little confused on part of
I'm
it.
sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I think it's like, because we claim nonpartisanship and we hold to nonpartisanship as a value, sometimes working with political parties sometimes brings up the question of whether or not that is nonpartisan. And from my perspective, as long as you don't exclusively work with one party, but you say to yourself, you know what, we might work with the Democratic Party on this one, but we're open to working with, other parties or other political perspectives in the future, or on collaborative events, then you're good. As long as you don't say we're exclusively focused on the Democratic Party.
All right, that's good.
Is it also a question of like 501c3, like being a nonpartisan organization? Like, is there actual funding attached? Because that's sort of, I would also dictate that, versus also just what is a moral practice, or what do you plan on doing is a separate question of like what is compliant with an organized, like, is this on your own?
Yeah.
Okay. So and you're not getting any funding from anywhere?
No.
So in that case, you can sort of choose whoever you want to work with, just legally speaking. Now, whether you should is a valid question, and I'm not really sure if I have an opinion. As I say, I think it still depends on if you start feeling like you get the right people showing up. That's
Okay.
always the central question that I'm asking. That if you start realizing you're getting too low numbers, or you realize that you needed more diversity of perspectives and you're not, then you might need to start retooling it. But that's thing that you just kind of have to play around with initially and see what works.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry. All right, folks, I'm going to take us into a breakout room now. And thanks again, Ben, for answering those questions. The breakout group will invite you to respond to the question, what goals would you set for an initial Resist Trump get-together? And how would you shape the space and/or experience to meet those goals? Welcome back. We are going to do a Menti question, folks, where we ask you, how do you intend for people to experience your next Resistance get-together? This may be your first, it may be your 100th, it may be your 10th. We're going to do it in a program called Mentimeter, which asks you the same question, but invites you to either on your browser, on your computer, or maybe on your phone, to go to a website called menti.com. And I'm going to go ahead and do it myself, menti.com, and then enter the code that you see on the screen at the very top, which says 54565626. Can everyone see that? Everyone see my screen? Yes? Okay, cool. Just checking. 54565626. How do you intend for people to experience your next Resistance get-together? Kind of an interesting question. I feel like I could have phrased it a little bit better. But I see some entrants coming in. Hope, community. Sorry, I see community. Well, a lot of things have come in. Bias for action, shared values, courage, inspiration, support. I love it. As those continue to come in, feel free to write your thoughts there. They're going to keep kind of shifting as more ideas come in. We're going to go back to the slide presentation and shift over a bit to introduce our next speaker, Lucy Frost. So, folks, it is my pleasure to introduce Lucy Frost, who is a key organizer and a board member for Hands Off Central Texas, a group that came together after the April 5th Hands Off protest. She created the Mobilize for that first event using the umbrella account of the National Coalition of 5051, Indivisible, and hundreds of organizations. Since then, she's set up or co-hosted every Mobilize action for Hands Off Central Texas, including the No Kings event on June 14th that brought out an estimated 20,000 people to the Texas Capitol. It is my pleasure to introduce my friend, Lucy Frost, to join us in community today. Thank you, Lucy.
Hey, thanks,
The
Nev.
floor is yours. Yep.
This is so cool. I was sharing with this small group that when I first met you, I've told you this before, that I first met Nev at a Democratic get together, and then I was on a Zoom call with me. So we're gonna mess with Trump, and not Trump, with Musk. We're gonna take Musk down. I said, you can't do that. So Nev, you were right, and I was rude. So, and Tracy, by the way, has 50,000 followers on Blue Sky. So do not underestimate this woman's ability to get the word out. So speaking of getting the word out, Mobilize is an awesome deal. I'm trying to get rid of this. I'm going to share my screen because what Nev has done, or somebody's done at Resist whatever. Okay, I don't want to do slides, babe. I want to share my screen if I can. Is that all right?
Yeah, you're sharing your screen.
Oh,
It's your
okay.
full
Okay.
screen.
Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. So what's going to happen what's happened with Mobilize is a place where a lot of people, frankly, a lot of younger people, will go to Mobilize and look what's happening in my area, what's going on, where can I go to a protest or a rally or a coffee or meetup or whatever. And so what I gather that what Resist Trump, Resist Austin has done is they've created, and there's a fee for this thing, but you don't have to pay the fee if you are under the umbrella of one of these groups. So you're going to go to a place like a host a Resist Trump get together. You're going to click host an event. And what you do when you get there, I'm going to show you what I already started. This is just like nuts and bolts here, right? Because this is where once you set up this event, you can then share this link everywhere, and then you get people signing up to come to your thing. And from the people that are signing up, you're going to get your list of their name, their email, that kind of thing that is important to you. I will tell you that from Hands Off Central Texas experience, I think it's maybe because people are a little funny about signing up for things. I did the math on this. I looked at the data. For every one person that signs up for one of our events, 4 to 5 show up. And that's what we're experiencing. I've not seen that before because I've used Mobilize for a long time for different political things. I think we're in a different time. I think people are really, as you said earlier, Nev, they're upset. They want to get out. They want to do something, but they're maybe hesitant about putting their names in. So that's fine. Just know that may happen. You get 50 people that sign up, you're going to get 250 people that show up often. So once you click your deal that says, I want to host an event, you're going to get this page. And this is because you're coming in under an umbrella. Most of this is preset. You probably can't edit any of that. This, you can change this if you want to. Oh, the what do you call it? The title of your event matters. So I'll give you an example. Recently, Hands Off Central Texas did and the title was Veterans March. We didn't have a lot of people show up. People that did show up were veterans or families and friends of veterans. But I remember driving to the event that day and going, what happened here? And I thought, oh, it says Veterans March. And if I'm not a veteran, which I'm not, I would have thought, oh, that's not for me. So this title is really important because people are going to go look through, they'll go to the Mobilize overall site and look at what's happening in my area. You can filter by what's happening in your area, whether it's virtual or in person. And if the title doesn't seem like it's something that would invite you in, you're not going to go, right? So that's important. I like this. Let's talk about resist Trump, because that's pretty clear. That's like, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to talk about this. You're going to have some options here. Resist Trump has set up at this point these options for as their umbrella thing. I would call your first one probably a meet and greet. And any of y'all, please jump in. There's not that many of us on this call that people can't jump in and ask a question. But I'd probably say this is a meet and greet, this first one. It sounds really, it's not threatening. Doesn't mean I have to sign up for anything. I have to pay any money. I just want to see what's up, right? So that I would think for your first event, you might want to go that way. And Nev, you may have a different opinion, but that's what I would go for. This graphic here is going to be set by the Resist Trump people, at least in this case. Sometimes you'll do your own graphic. You want to pay attention to the size of that graphic. It's 1200 by 630. I don't expect you to remember that, but just know that you want to look up what's the size of that graphic, because you'll make yourself crazy trying to make it fit. And that's important too. So that title, what is it? What are we doing here? What's the photo? That's what's going to get people's attention to come in and say, oh, let's talk about resist. Oh, okay, I'm in. So you're going to be already with this graphic and this title. I would think you'd be attracting people that want to do something. These are not people that want to sit on the couch and gripe about how things are. These are people, let's do something. Let's meet, let's talk and do something. This description, it looks like, yeah, so I could edit this if I wanted to. I would tend to not do that. Maybe, hang on, let me see if I'm in the right one. When I see like really long URL things, I think people's brains go, oh, what is all that stuff, right? So I might go to, I think I have a different version of this. Let's see. No, I guess I don't. I would be inclined to make this into a shorter link and maybe give some space there. You have 3 ways of formatting text here. You can either use all caps. So you could say, what is this about? Right, so all caps, you have all caps, you have emojis you can put in, and you have spacing. You can't do bold, you can't do italics, you can't change fonts. So you're going to want to make sure that this, you want to make it scannable. I would be inclined to maybe put down here like source and maybe indent that a little bit so they can see that, oh crap, sorry. That's not the most important thing. That's like, here you go. Maybe, anyway, leave it alone. So this is a preset description of the event. You can change this to go to speak to the people in your community. What's going to resonate with them? You're going to start with this, but you can change this at this point. Then, so you've decided, here's the event type here again, meet and greet. You have some options here. It's a community event, also a good option. We did a picnic with Hands Off Central Texas at the Capitol. We called it a community event. It was a nice event. It was, people came and they didn't feel like, oh, I'm going to have to sign up for something. I just want to come. They picnic on the ground. So friend to friend outreach. It's a house party. Everybody loves a party. That's not, I could go there. So that's not a bad one either. Parties are more attractive than, oh, let's talk about politics, but if it's called Resist Trump, obviously you know what the party's about. Okay, so then you're going to come down here, and it's public or private. I would encourage you to make it public. You might, we have not had this problem, and it depends on where you live. And I don't know, Nev, jump in here. I mean, if somebody lives in a real MAGA place, it would mean if it's private, you have to send the link to people to come. So that's a choice that you need to make based on what's going on in your area. I mean, if I'm in East Texas, I might think about making it a private event. I don't know. Because if it's not, you might, I don't know, get some MAGAs or something, somebody nutty. Is it in person or virtual? That's a big deal, obviously. If it's virtual, you're going to give them a place to come. Most of these, as Neb said, you want them in person. You want people to get together in person, meet in person, have that interaction with another human being. So then you're going to put in, where's it going to be? It's going to be, I'm just going to say, make something up. Doss Elementary School. I've got something coming up at that. And so it's going to pop in your address, and wherever that's going to be, you just want to do that. Now, this is another question. Only attendees can see this location. Personally, Nev and I have talked about this. People kind of want to know where they're going to go before they sign up for something. So I would leave this blank. On the other hand, if you live in an area where it could be dicey, that's going to be your call. But you'll probably get fewer people signing up if they can't see the location. Think about it. It's like, oh, I'm going to go sign up to this thing on this, Friday night or Thursday evening or Sunday, and I don't know where it's going to be. Yeah, maybe not going to do it. And then you're going to put the date and the time, the start time and the end time. No biggie. If there is a capacity limitation, you're going to put that in. Most of these are not going to repeat. You can, though, if you're starting up a chapter of Resist Trump in your area, sure. Hey, we're going to do this every other Sunday on this date. That's another time to do it. The communication is, this is my phone number. If you're comfortable putting your phone number in there, it's not a bad idea. People want to know that they can reach you. You don't have to. And then here again, Neb, you're not gonna like this. I would shorten this URL because it's like people's brain go, oh, look at all that stuff. Like just shorten it to something using Bitly or something like that. But consider reviewing. I'd say, hey, review it. Or before you come, read this. If you have different languages here, it's nice to tell people it's going to be in English. I haven't used this too much, so I'll just be honest. We always have it in English, and we usually have some Spanish speakers available. This is kind of a big deal that if you meet ADA standards, when I'm not entirely sure what those are, but if you say, yes, I have an accessible restroom, mainly flat ground, no stairs or steps, because of, and this is just my experience in Austin, we have like a whole bunch of people that are senior citizens, right, that are coming and may need to know, can I park? Can I get there? Am I going to get stuck? If I have a walker or wheelchair, that's a big deal. So, or it's either age or issues with their mobility. And those people like that are often fabulous volunteers that get stuff done. So you want to think about, what do we have here at the place that we're going to meet? Is there a dedicated parking space? Is there a wheelchair ramp if I need it? Are there, just this is a big deal. You'd be surprised how many people will write in. If you want to put anything else in there about, ASL interpretation, biggie. If you can find people in your community that are willing to do ASL interpretation, it's really nice. Sometimes, most of the time for our big protests, we I think we don't pay them, but if we have a smaller event, sometimes we do. I'm not the one that does that, but it makes sense that the folks, you might have to think about some kind of budget, that it really makes it helpful for people who are hearing impaired, that they can be, you're not going to do live captioning, obviously, if it's in person. You might do dedicated seating there. You might go, we're going to have a place that's for people who are mobility impaired, ADA, so you have a place for them. I don't do this part too much. I'm not real sure what happens here. To be honest, once you set up and you are a host of a Mobilize thing, your email is in there and your co-host emails are in there. And people will email you. They will respond to this Mobilize information, and they'll click. So what you want to do is be sure when you set up your Mobilize that you have you and maybe a couple of other people that are watching these emails come in, because people have questions. Can I bring my kids? I have mobility issues. I mean, just all kinds of questions. And you want to answer those questions so that they feel like, oh, there's a human being on the other end of this deal and they're telling me what's up. I try to have at least 2 co-hosts, because when we do an event here, there's so many people that it's a lot to manage. So I put some other people in who you have their first name, their last name, their email, and they will get those emails too. And we just decide, hey, Heidi's answering the questions about, mobility, and Roseanne's answering the questions about other stuff. Where are the bathrooms? I mean, it's just, is there going to be a shuttle? Where do I park? I mean, it's just stuff people want to know. Your information goes here, and then you click host this event and you've got it. And then you're hosting that event, and then you're able to take that link from that event and spread it around. So anytime you're talking about the event on any kind of social media, in an email, on a flyer, you're constantly pushing that address, that URL for that event, so that people go, oh, that's where you go. So you're funneling people to that place to do that. Wait, let's see if there's any questions here. Anything going on? Okay, we've got 2 minutes left. Okay. Should we open up for questions? I mean, that's kind of it. It's just, those are the nuts and bolts of it.
We're going to move into a breakout room where we can talk a little bit more about what we just saw and how to think about using Mobilize. So in this next breakout room, folks, I'm going to invite you to consider the following question, which I'll drop in the chat. And this time I'll make the breakout rooms a little bit better than last time with, a timer and all that good stuff. But based on this Mobilize form walkthrough, what details would you share or would you include to make your event inviting and effective? And what questions do you still have about the process? And I've put the link to our campaign event, or our event campaign form to host a Resist Trump event. I will now open up the breakout rooms. Well, we want to do a quick Menti question to figure out what your thought about that breakout room and what you're still thinking. So we wanted to ask you, what questions or concerns do you have about the Mobilize event setup process? Maybe you still have some questions or concerns, and we want to hear what those are. So I'm going to go back into Menti and present this next Menti. Give you a moment to, again, pull out your phone if you'd like to answer the question that you see on the screen. Maybe go to the same browser window or on your phone.
Can I go on and say it was perfect? It was perfect.
I have no questions. That's what you should write. I have no questions. I have no questions. I'm good, thanks. I have no questions. All right, we'll wait for one more response. Excited that Discord has additional resources. Okay, beautiful. We are running low on time. Clear meeting time will probably be done by 8:40 at the latest. Process to change. I didn't know about exporting the data. Thanks. How am I going to check all this email? Yeah, good question.
That's the question. You gotta be ready.
I guess that means you're going to have a lot of people sign up for your event, so that's a good thing. Well, Let me just show you again, before we move on, a couple of resources you have at your disposal that I was reminded of in the breakout room. So if you go to the Resist Trump website, where it says there are no kings in America in the top, we have a new section of the website that says toolkits at the top left. I believe that's the best place to find the information you may be looking for. We've got a video and a toolkit about how to create and run an event on Mobilize, just like, similar to the walkthrough you just got from Lucy, which was live. We have a video on our YouTube where you can watch that. And we also have a PDF that'll walk you through it directly. They're great resources. I highly recommend checking them out if you want to learn more, or just kind of refresh your memory as you go through creating this on Mobilize. And then if you want to go through how to host a get together, again, we have this great resource, which is a Google document. It's a toolkit that can take you through almost in like 10 pages how to host a get together based on some input from a number of volunteers in our community. So, what do we have coming up? Well, we've got, as usual, on the left-hand side of the screen, the Google Classroom. This time, I'm not going to go into depth onto what that is, but I definitely encourage everyone who's here to join our Google Classroom, where we let the learning continue. There won't be any assignments from this point to the next assignment, the major assignment, which is to host a get-together and then submit a short reflection. But it's great to step into the Google Classroom anyway. Sorry, I'm going to change one thing about that thing I just put in the chat. There we go. Oops. There we go. We also have Leadership Lab that's going to take place on Tuesday nights at 7. Our next Leadership Lab will be not next week, which we'll have off. Or actually, it will. Yeah, it won't be next week. It'll be the following week, which I think is going to be July 22nd. And let's see, what else do we have here? We have the Discord. I highly recommend checking that out. It's a good place to build community and kind of take your, whether it's your local or your national level of community of resistors, and integrate them there. And then finally, our next episode will be Knowing Your Rights, Legal Basics for Activists and Organizers, where we're going to have a criminal defense attorney and a veteran, Charles Arnone, who's an attorney at law here in Texas, who will be talking about how to think about your rights as an activist and an organizer. So that is the full episode. We have our website addresses here on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find us on YouTube, Blue Sky, Meetup, and Discord. I want to give special thanks again to our speakers, Lucy Frost and Ben Sadun. I want to also thank our breakout room facilitators, Mike, Sherry, Braden, and I believe that's the full length of breakout room facilitators we had today. We also, I want to thank Tracy for co-moderating tonight's event. And I most of all want to thank you all for showing up to learn about how to host a get-together. You're an important part of the resistance, and your importance will grow even further as you bring in more people into the movement with the work that you do. So thank you so much for coming tonight, and have a great night, y'all.